have a few images here to work on. Tim and several of the guys have requested some instruction here. And what I've done is I've picked several images because they're all different levels for the most part. This one here, this is straight from the camera. I'm going to do a real quick bump up of the levels. She's broad lit, as you'll see here. Later I turned her face to the left and shot her short as well, which I prefer. But her hair flow was in such a way here that I wanted her head tipped this way so that her hair flows properly. When we turn her face to short light her hair flow is the opposite way, but outdoors we can't change the direction of light, so it's trade-offs a lot of times. But anyway, I'm going to do just a quick perk here just because I want to see her looking her best as I work on her. We're going to get rid of a couple quick blemishes and just spruce up those eyes a little bit. They're a little soft too. Just ignore that. Alright. I don't like the proportions because they are 35mm proportions. So I am going to set a 4x5 crop, and let's crop a nice looking composition here. There's a good start. Now at this point we want to do a little burn, and if we just take the burn tool and use it by itself, you'll notice that we start to get a kind of a rough look to it. It picks up contrast, the color increases as well, the saturation, and you start to get a real, see how her arm and the deck here now has kind of a contrasty, oversaturated look, kind of harsh. So we're going to go back and undo that. And what I do is I grab the airbrush here, and usually black. And sometimes too, a trick rather than just black is to pick a color. Right now I'm holding Alt, which allows me to pick a color from the image. And I'll pick a real dark color, almost black, in the actual image. You could even pick this dark brown over here on the left from the back wall. Let's go with that brown first. It's kind of a slightly warm dark gray, and we want a really big brush, and that's real important too because you don't because you don't want to have lines. If I do too much of a brush, too small, then I have to make multiple passes. Let's do a small brush. I'll show you how not to do it. And we're going to start, see how you can see the line, and it just looks, it looks phony. So we're going to go back here and we're going to undo that again. And we're going to pick a big brush. And I would say this is what? Maybe a third, 25%. So one to about a third. 3 of those fit across the image. And the brush size will depend on the size that of the image that you're working on as well. So this one's about a third. And then opacity, you want to turn that way down. Better too low than too high, because you can always come in with multiple passes. So let's just go 10 for the heck of it. And we've picked up our color again from the background here. And we'll do a test. Yeah, and I can see that. See how it came in? But just enough to where you really don't notice it. And each time I don't make the same exact move. I'm kind of pulling down so that I'm darkening it more at the bottom. I might do the same thing here, and I might even hit her feet just a little bit to fade them out. Now compositionally, the plant here is running right out of the frame again. So what we're going to do is just shrink the brush a hair and even just hit that a little bit. And you'll notice it does kind of a muddy effect. And that is just the opposite of what just the burn does. Now I'm going to go into black. I've used that dark tannish, and now I'm going to go black, and I'm going to do the same thing but a little bit further out. And look at how it makes your eye just get sucked right into the subject. Her pants are light, so I might make it even a little bit more transparent. The brush a little bigger so I don't get blotches on her pants. And hit her pants. See how I hit that just once? Let's undo it. Watch the pants come back. That's normal. And just one quick hit. And you don't see what I did, but what it does, I mean, you don't see the actual burning. You don't see a mark. You don't see a line. It just darkened everything back here so that your eye is just sucked right into that face. And that's what we want. A little bit even up here, and I just stand back and look at it. The plant here is a little bit too dominant yet, so I might hit him once or twice. See, I just click once and it just brings it down. I'm going to undo it. See these leaves, how they're bright? Watch. Undo it, darken. Undo it, darken. Nothing to it. And this is all just the airbrush so far. Now my eyes kind of lit up here and I see some distractions back there, so I might shrink the brush just a touch and hit that up there again, just to stop. A little couple of clicks here, just to stop myself from looking back there. You want to see it, but you don't want to look at her face and be drawn back into distractions. Those are distractions. Now as I look at it, these distractions are gone because I burned those, but now this leaf over here, these bug me a little bit. So I may shrink it just a touch more, and again I still have the black airbrush, not burn. And I might get in close to her hairline and just hit that leaf and that leaf and that leaf and stand back again, look at it. What bugs me? Now those leaves don't bother me anymore. This one might, that one just a hair. And now I just kind of look at it. How does it feel to me? Boy, you know, it feels really good. I like what I got. Now if I want, I can optionally take the burn tool here, and again, quite large, about 25%, 1, 2, 3, about 4 of those fit across, or a third. And I may come even more to the outer edges and burn, just making some light passes here. And again, you don't see any transition from where I burned to where I've not burned. Now her butt looks a little bit bright here. I might hit that just a couple of clicks. And you gotta watch it. I'd rather actually go back here to the airbrush, go back to that black, and just pop her bottom there a little bit and get rid of that. It just fades it out again. Now I'm going back to the burn tool, and I'm actually burning a little more than I probably should, but that looks pretty darn good right there. And then once burned, I kind of muddied up the whole image, so I might go to levels and bump them up one more time. Look at those eyes pop just a little. And I'm going to bring up the midtones just a hair. And I'm going to bring the blacks down just a hair. And once you do that too, now it almost looks like there isn't enough burn again. Saturation also seems just a little weak, so I'm just going to bring in the saturation. Just increase it a touch. And I might even spot saturate. I'll come over here to the sponge tool. And again, I don't want to see lines, so I want a big one, a big brush. And I'm just going to hit it here and there where I feel it. It just needs to grab my eye a little more. A little color down there. This basket could be better. A little on the background, a little on the face. And she's a little soft here too still, so just sharpen her just a touch. Shrinking down, and that would be it. That's a final burned image. As you look at it now, you're drawn right into the face, which is what we want. This doesn't distract over here with the leaves. I'm drawn in here from the bottom. No longer does the front of the porch, this extra board, create a distraction. Our eye is drawn in from all directions, right to the eyes. Background doesn't distract anymore. And let's call up another image here. Now this one's a lot tougher. This one, because it has light areas, is a bit more advanced. We can't just take the burn tool and we can't just take black and start throwing it around. If we use the burn tool, you'll see that we get this, again, strange contrasty effect, especially in lighter areas like here on the wall. See how that gets real contrasty and rough looking? So as you start burning lighter areas, you start running into a problem. So we'll undo it. We will choose the airbrush again with black, or we can select color from the background. If we go black on a light area, you get that muddy effect that we don't want. So the trick to this then is to select from the background. And we can pick this shaded area down here, or this shaded area in here, or from here, or from down here. I'm going to pick from the inner windowsill here. So we get a deep golden, not quite black color. It's kind of a rusty color, sort of olive. We'll make the brush big, very transparent again, probably 10 or less. And we'll start punching in by just darkening areas down in the corners. This wall is distracting, so we'll see if we can't bring that wall down a little bit. It's brighter than she is. Go for the corners, and we'll resize the brush down to the width of the wall and see how we just kind of paint that in so that it's not brighter than she is. I just want to darken that a little bit. Over here as well, behind her, along the bottom here, we're going to want to darken that. Putting in a vignette as if we had one on the camera. The four corners again, a little bit along the top and the right side. And we just click around, drawing our eye in. And then because we've burned this a little bit with the airbrush, we want to resaturate it. So we're just going to bring the sponge, restore some of the saturation that was lost by punching that olive, dark green color in there with the airbrush. Just spot any areas that don't look bright, and we'll hit her a little more too because we want her to stand out, so we want her to be nice and colorful. Now once we've done color, we can burn just a hair with the burn tool. The bottom, the corners. This thing's quite light here. Let's see if we can get rid of this bush a little bit so it doesn't distract so much. Again, the corner, and then you'll notice here along the top that the green background, the green thing behind her, the window, tends to distract from her. So by burning the top, we can stop our eye from going out the top. You'll see that as we look at her face, our eyes let out the top. So by just shrinking the brush a little bit and burning up there, we can stop our eye from looking at her face and then going out the top of the image following the green window shutters. And resaturate just a little. Darken that wall. It still bothers me a little bit. So with the burn tool, we're just deadening the bright areas here. I want to look at the image and I want to be drawn into her face. I'm going to restore the levels. And because we did that, and hit it just a little more. Each time we increase the levels, we're pumping her up, playing down the background with the airbrush and burn tools. And there she is completed. Now the most difficult of all is outdoors, especially if we have sky showing. Now normally I wouldn't show sky in a portrait if I can get away with it. This was just a test shot of the set. Here's the sky. You can see it's all bleached out and white. Normally I would crop that out. If you try to burn that area, you will get a very strange effect. So what I'll do is sample with the clone tool some of the trees, and I'll just get rid of that white sky quickly. And then to burn, I'll sample again a dark area. And using the airbrush once again, it's a very large brush, I'll just start to darken those edges. Now this washed out sand here bothers me also, the sunlit area. So I'll sample a area of the chips here and just punch them in. Because if you try to burn or airbrush over a white washed out area, you'll just get a real gloomy looking gray that looks really bad. Back to the airbrush tool and start darkening those edges again. Just punching it here and there. It's a little bright, and again in the center we get that washed out area. And again on the right we have that washed out area. The entire image looks a little muddy again, so I'm going to adjust the levels one more time. And we'll get to those two washed out areas in a bit. The whole idea is to make the subject stand out. And initially on this image, the plantation set was really lost. And each thing we do here is just bringing it out more and more. And using the burn tool, I'll follow the airbrush by just darkening what I've done. And the bleached out area on the right now starts to bother me because we burned so much that the white really looks bright. So I'll select the area using clone. I'll sample some of the branches and just quick and dirty paint those in. And I'll do the same inside here too, where the sun's hitting. Now normally if we have a family post here, they'll cover these bright areas, but still they might show through. So you just select the area, clone it in. And go back to the burn tool and burn a little more. Each time looking at the entire image and just making sure that our eye is drawn into the subject, which in this case is the set itself. Still a little bit hot up here. I'm taking it a little further than I normally would, just for demonstration purposes. Just getting rid of some of those hot spots up in the bushes here. And as we play down the edges with a vignette, and by burning, the brighter areas start standing out even more, like these here up in the tree. So I'm going to shrink the brush to fit between the branches, sample some trees and some bushes and leaves, and just quickly wipe those out. This is stuff you don't have to do. I'm just showing what you do real quick to fix that. There's some areas in the sky here still where the white is burn this upper edge. It's a little hot in the background there. And the whole reason for this is to make the eye follow the composition and stay inside the frame. I'm going to adjust the color just a little. The eye will always go to the brightest area of the portrait, so by darkening the edges you'll never really be drawn out. Now just another little trick. This doesn't really need it, but you can select an area roughly. Make sure you feather with a very large feather amount here, and you can pump up the levels just of your subject. Now I didn't feather quite enough, and you can see sort of a transition here on the bottom. So we're going to redo that. This is a full-size image, so it really needs to be feathered with quite a large amount. I'm going to reselect, and I'm going to try and avoid the bright areas here on the top so that I don't pump those up. And I'm going to go to selection and feather with a very large amount this time. And now when I pump up the levels, I'm going to make the subject stand out even more. And now you don't see the transition at the bottom. It's very gradual. And that's it.